You're unmuted.
The habit, that's all. Yeah, there is no, that's an extra button. You're starting to move again. Afraid I'm growing into the shirt.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, Benzie County Board of Commissioners, January 24, 2023.
Yeah, there is no, that's an extra button.
There.
Thank you. We're in the Frank Walder House Boardroom. Roll call, please.
Cunningham,
Here.
Janat,
Here.
Markey,
Here.
Nye,
Here.
Roloffs.
Here.
Sauer,
Present.
Worsakki's excused.
Please stand for the invocation and the pledge. Dear Lord, thank you for the opportunity to serve the citizens of Benzie County. I ask for your guidance with the decisions we will make today. Please keep all of our public safety personnel safe and free from harm. In the name of your Son, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for being here this morning. I will advise you that we are now streaming live on YouTube. So this is yes, let's go. So this is new for us. Changing from the Zoom platform to live streaming. So hopefully everything goes good with the connection.
Yes.
I'd look for a motion for approving the agenda.
I'll make the motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Nye supports.
Motion and support, further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So move. Approval of the minutes from January 10th.
Didn't find anything, so I'll make the motion to approve as presented. Markey will support.
The motion and support. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? So move. Brings us to our first public comment. Is there anyone that would like to share under public comment?
Hold on, Joanne.
Oh, you're seconded.
I'll be quick. Just wanted to.
Identify yourself, please.
Ed Hugter.
Thank you.
I'm here as chair of the Park and Recreation Commission. You have on your agenda establishing an ad hoc committee for appointments to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And I just wanted to request that we do this very quickly. The current, you have 5 applications for 4 spots. The 4 members on the board have all requested reappointment, and I would certainly support that. The concern, and in fact, the 5th person is also someone we know who's a good person and would serve well. So that's not either here nor there, but we're in a position where we're working on trying to finalize a grant for developing the outlet site. We're involved in a study of a proposal that you approved a study for. I'm losing my train of thought for the feasibility of creating a parks director position, and these positions actually expired on December 31st. And so we'd like a full board with certainty of who they're going to be as soon as possible. So if it's possible for that ad hoc committee to act so that we can have our full board appointed by our next meeting, which is a week or a month from yesterday, and it gives you only 1 meeting in between, we would certainly appreciate that. Uncertainty was difficult to deal with in times. We have a good board, had a lot of healthy turnover in recent years. In fact, the majority of our board the majority of your appointments are all in their first term. So just a request that we do this with as much dispatch as possible. Recognize your responsibilities, but please,
Thanks, Ed.
please do. Thank you.
Yep. Joanne?
Joanne Hawerda from the city of Frankfurt.
Thank you for your patience on the SRO funds and so on and so forth. We did finally get our audit to date, and it's all been reconciled. There will be cash of $172,066.45 plus car reserve of $20,000, giving you a total, which we will address that at our February meeting, and a check will be cut after that, which will give you a total of $192,066.45. The car we wish to keep, and I just gave Katie the printout from our auditor. The depreciation value with the car and the equipment comes to $11,985.50. There's a couple of other items that we need. I forgot to ask the auditor about the pistol or gun that they want to keep. So there's that. And when Katie's available, we'll go through the complete printout from the time that we started with an SRO. But most of it that I see is operational, uniforms, working supplies, and so on and so forth. So there may be a little bit more coming to you, but at this point, those were the two big things. Any questions?
Can I add?
Go ahead, Gary.
I misunderstood. You said 192,000.
Yes,
$66.
$192,066.45.
192,066. So 192,066.
06. I was missing them.
Not 600.
Missing the zero.
19,000 or 700.
No,
Thank you. I
192,000.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, and I apologize again. So, and I also want to let you know, the city has been really, really, really busy. We're going to, or we have hired Wade Trim to come in and help us develop an overlay workforce housing district. And I understand through Wade Trim that nobody in the state has that, but it's something that I think a lot of communities are probably going to be looking at. Also, wanted to update you that the Frankfurt Methodist Church is going to put 0 to 3 daycare in there. They can accommodate 12, but it's a start. And also I was informed that the building trades program is going to start up in the fall. This came from Superintendent Jeff Pousley. So like I said, we've been busy. We're trying to move forward. So.
Joanne, if I may,
Yes.
and I do want to advise the public that normally under public input, the Board of Commissioners did not respond. I'm guessing Joanne has a previous engagement not going to be available at 10-ish. So we are going to have a few questions for Joanne, but normally under public input, we will not be responding.
Okay.
The markings on the car, do they say Benzie County Sheriff's Department or City of Frankfurt?
It says the city of Frankfurt.
Okay.
Yeah.
And building trades, is that Benzie Central Frankfurt or just
It's
Frankfurt?
going to be a combined of those, and Tom Lutz, who was involved in it before, is going to be spearheading it.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Next public comment, sir.
Morning. Thank you for the opportunity to spend 3 minutes.
Your name, sir?
I will do so, sir. My name is Matt Rush from 4864 Arbutus Lane in Beulah in Lake Township. We bought a place 10 years ago. I've been coming up. I've been retired 2 years now and just can't help but be passionate about the health and vitality of the community, particularly about the Benzie Wellness and Aquatic Center project. So I'm here as an advocate for the process. I'm not on the board, just a community member like you. So I've got 3 points to make. One is the project itself. You may be familiar with it a little bit, but it is intended to be an integrated array of health and well-being services, spaces, and programs for all ages, all walks of life for the entire county. The model really is about free access and all that means from an access standpoint. It's about programs and services for fees and about memberships. We hope to build the building, not hope, we are intending to build the building with private funds and then look to private-public partnerships for programming and services and collaboration and sustain operations through philanthropy. We went to the Benzie Economic Development Corporation meeting and was really impressed with their thoughtful and disciplined approach to asking questions about the project. They identified duplication, feasibility, sustainability, partners, and reference projects as kind of main categories that we're working on now and responding to each one of those at the next meeting. We believe, while no commitments have been made, there seems to be a gentle thumbs up with a lot of really prudent questions to figure out. Lastly, I'll just finish up our proposal for consideration for the commission. Commissioners support the BWAC endeavor and all that means publicly. Engage with the project management. You're a lot of talented people that we need at the table to bring this ambitious endeavor to life, and advise on the ownership structure. We're kind of lay people. We don't understand all it takes to kind of bring something like this to life. Lastly, we do have an ask that you facilitate access to capital, and that word is a broad word. Our initial need is $250,000 for planning to figure out the actual costs of this. The acquisition of a site still to be determined. We are looking at the Crystal Lake Elementary School site, which can be vacated maybe a year from now, year and a half. That's our primary purpose to look at. And actually, building the facility as well from a project management support standpoint. Lastly, I'll just take one moment and mention that we really believe this is not a transactional project. You all have projects coming at you from all kinds of disparate corners and walks of life of Benzie County, particularly with some of the monies that have been available from the past couple of years of stress in the nation. We believe this is a transformational project, and it's going to take all of us to kind of come together and get it accomplished. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
See you soon. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Anybody else under public input? I'll close public input and we will move on to finance.
Now moves to pay the bills in the amount of $342,312.94.
Or support.
There's a motion and support. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
I'm sorry. I'm still going through the list.
Did you?
I do have just a couple of things I've highlighted. Does the school resource officers, are they carrying a credit card that's owned by the county?
The sheriff's office has credit cards, yes. So they would have access to that credit card if it was needed.
Okay, because I noticed there's an entry under school resource officer
Yeah.
for payment.
Mhm.
Okay. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Not
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye. Yes. Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
Brings us to elected officials and department heads. Sheriff?
Be real brief. I just want to recognize our employees up there from top to bottom. They're doing outstanding work. The jail folks have been tasked with new things and different things, and they're handling them well. We've had medical calls in there. They spring into action, do what they're supposed to, and I'm very, very happy for that. On the other side of things, I'm sure you've all seen and heard about the catalytic converters being stolen all over the county and tri-county area. Our detectives, there have been a couple individuals caught in the process of doing that, and our detectives were paramount in that investigation collectively with Grand Traverse in other counties. So just want to say that they're doing a very fine job and good things are happening.
Thanks, Sheriff. Any
That's all I have.
questions?
Any questions?
You'll be here for the discussion regarding the jail.
Absolutely. Yes.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Tom King?
Good morning, Tom King, Director of Benzie EMS. Should be brief, just a quick update on how the ambulance operations are going, which is quite well. Biggest issue we have right now is just with one ambulance. It's got some engine work that needs to be done. Initial report from mechanic was that they suggested a new engine after a couple other conversations. It was kind of set aside, and we currently have the unit down in a facility that we work with regularly in Big Rapids, and they're gonna pull the engine out, fix the problem, put it back together, and so it'll still probably be about $3,000 or $4,000, but a lot better than $12,000 for a new engine.
Absolutely.
So we're happy for that. It's just gonna be down for a little while, but that'll be fine. We have enough others to keep us going. Through the Fire and EMS Association, it looks like they want to start up another EMT program. So Lenny Merrill's working on getting that up and running. So hopefully we'll be able to get that one off the ground and going in the spring.
Their charge for applicants.
Through the that's going to be through the association. There's going to be a cost. I don't know what that is. So, COVID is what it is. It's up, it's down. So it seems to be a downward trend.
What's the duration of the class?
The duration of the class, I'm gonna say give or take 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
That is, other than we'll be working on getting ready to purchase an ambulance in 2025. We have one coming in the fall of 23. So we just want to get that approved, or it'll be the 24-25 budget. So it'll be a little far out, but right now manufacturing is about 2 years out on the ambulances. So we need to try to stay ahead of the game on that. So that at the moment is all I have.
EMS is scheduled for a meeting tomorrow.
Correct. 1
Thank you.
o'clock.
Thank you.
All right. Very good.
Thanks. Other department heads? Seeing none. We'll move on to action items.
So the first item for action today is regarding the child care fund. And I will invite Carly Bailey up to the podium. You guys met her when she first started and came on board. She has some good news for the child care fund and some increased funding coming from the state.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good
Good
to see
morning.
everybody again. Some good news coming from the state of Michigan. We have always gotten $15,000 basic grant that it was 100% reimbursable from the state. It is given to counties of less than 50,000 population, and it has increased. So it has increased by $41,520. So we are now getting $56,520 from the state, 100% reimbursable. The only criteria that grant comes with is it has to be program centered. So with that money, we have expanded our social work program. We have hired and contracted with a part-time social worker specifically for Benzie County. Previously, we took the $15,000 from Manistee and Benzie and had a part-time social worker for both counties. And now we are able to give Manistee a social worker and Benzie a social worker. Lori Wade, who is a Benzie resident, is our contracted social worker. She works directly with our kids and their families, doing in-home programming. She will be doing some substance abuse work and also anger management, and just providing extra resources and also consequences for the kids that we're serving. So we just had to amend the budget to increase that 15,000 to the 56,520. Myself and referee Krusniak did that a week and a half ago, and we are still waiting for the state to sign that. But we have done what we've needed to do to amend that budget.
So the action I need from the board today, and forgive me for not having that in the packet, is to approve a budget amendment in that amount to the child care fund.
That a request?
Yes, please.
I'll make the motion to adjust the childcare fund in the amount of,
Of 41,520.
thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and support. Is there further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye. Yes. Roloffs.
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Knopf,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank
Always
you
nice
so
to see you.
much. Wonderful to see you.
Yep, thank you. Move on to item B, to approve the contract with Grand Traverse County for inmate housing.
I'll invite the sheriff's office to really go into detail on this, but I was asked to give a additional detailed item from my memo. So my memo was written so that it sounded like the dollar per day that we're charging per inmate only covered housing and food costs, but that is an all-encompassing day amount that's apportioned, attributed to the entire cost. And so that would factor in all of our costs. It's a stipend towards that. So not just food and just housing, it would include parts of the staff wage as well. Take it away.
Under Sheriff,
Good morning.
good morning.
Good to see everybody again. The agreement, and I think that was posted with, everybody has a copy of the agreement, the sample agreement.
Just a memo, with a, why can I think of that?
Okay.
Thank you.
Um,
Summary.
We were contacted by Grand Traverse County and requested to house any amount of inmates that we really could. They are in a desperate overflow situation. They were contracting with Leelanau County. Leelanau County is now housing exclusively for Kalkaska County, whose jail is not up and running. They are housing all inmates for Kalkaska that are long-term sentenced and pre-sentenced inmate. So they asked us to assist to reduce their overflow. This happened very quickly, so we didn't have time to sit down with the contract and approach the board with it. We also didn't have time to communicate to our full staff what was going on. In hindsight, that's a learning curve for the undersheriff. You have to communicate these things to your staff when you're more than doubling the inmate population, because it becomes very stressful on them. We did communicate to the staff that was working that day. We had extra staff on, but other staff, show up for work the next day and their population just doubled overnight, and that could be a little stressful. Our agreement with Grand Traverse is for $35 a night per inmate. That $35 a night is about the going rate. We're running about $30 a night is the average rate for sentenced inmates, $35 for unsentenced inmates. And we just said in the contract, we'll go straight 35 per inmate. There are some rules on what inmates we will take as far as security levels. Security levels are based upon this inmate's past experiences, what they are convicted of or accused of, and what kind of problem they are in the jail. We are taking lower level security inmates only from Grand Traverse, and right now they are sending inmates on a voluntary basis. We've agreed to stay at about 20 inmates, which keeps us in a situation where it doesn't create a ton of overtime. It doesn't create an overcrowded population in our jail. But we do have the beds to take care of that. With that $35 a day per inmate at 20, that's about $700 a day. And this isn't about the income. We're not here to produce revenue, but we're here to make sure that we're not losing money by assisting our neighbors in Grand Traverse County. They are in an overpopulation situation, and they have inmates frankly stacked on top of each other. All of the inmates that we have received from Grand Traverse to date are very happy to be here. And I have heard nothing but complimentary things from the inmates about how we run our show up there. Both food, how professional our corrections officers are, and how they're not stacked up on top of each other. That's why I'd like to keep that number about 20 rather than move it up higher and stack them on top. That's not what we're about. You do those numbers, it equates to about $21,000 a month. If you run that over the course of a year, gross in a year is $252,000. Our biggest increase in cost with these inmates is to the food. Our food cost really would increase over a period of a year. If we go from now until December 31st, about 75,000 increase. If you take that away from that 252, you're still showing a net of 177. There'll be some additional costs. We're going to have some more jail uniforms. We're going to have more cleaning costs. There are things that will increase in use on our dryer, use on our washer, use on our dishwasher, all of that kind of things. But in all, we're still looking at a net of about $177,000 if we ran 20 inmates from now until the end of the year from Grand Traverse. Things that are included in that cost are everyday jail medical. If that's seeing Dr. Custer or one of our nurses, that is already included in that cost. There is no increase in our cost for that. If there are outside costs where an inmate has to be transported to the hospital, Grand Traverse incurs that cost. Grand Traverse also incurs the cost of prescriptions, which is one of our higher costs, outside prescriptions for the inmates. That is the responsibility of Grand Traverse under this contract. The transportation of all the inmates back and forth is also the responsibility of Grand Traverse. We're not pulling people from the jail and running them back to Grand Traverse. Grand Traverse has agreed to transport all inmates before the release date, at least 24 hours prior to the release date, back to Grand Traverse. So they house all of their property there. They get them back in their jail and then they release them the next day. We're not going to release them from here and then have everybody need a ride from here back up to Grand Traverse where they're from. So that stuff is covered on the contract. One thing on the contract that I found this morning, it's a small thing, but it had to do with inmate property. All of the inmates from Grand Traverse will hold their personal property up there. They'll take them the day before they're going to be released and release their personal property. Very time consuming for us to intake all of their personal property and then release it back to them just to go to Grand Traverse and intake it, release it. So that personal property can't come with them into the cell anyway. It's just housed in a locker and released back to them upon discharge. Any questions?
So you've done a great job of explaining many of the things that I had between you and Katie, but just to reaffirm it, the $35 cost includes some allocated overhead. It's not just the variable cost.
Yes, it does.
$35 a day, it would be competitive, at least in this region, for housing.
It is. It's probably a little higher in this region, but they're in a desperate situation, and I wanted to make sure we're not going to lose money helping our partners in Grand Traverse.
Sure. And I want to be clear, these are your decisions. These aren't mine. Okay. But I'm just trying to understand it since you brought it up. The 20 inmates, that's the 20 coming from Grand Traverse County, in addition to whatever we have here.
That is correct. This morning, our count was 35. We have 20 Grand Traverse inmates and 15 Benzie County inmates.
And for the benefit of people in attendance today, how many beds do we have there?
We have the ability, as it stands right now, to house 47 inmates. With the purchase of one more nightstand and one more bed, I think the state would allow us up to 53.
And you have staffing you're staffed appropriately for the number of inmates we're holding.
We are very fortunate, and in several years I've been able to come to you and tell you we are fully staffed in the jail. And if any of you watch The Voice, I'm going to say my team is full in corrections. So.
Greg, does that include the training that's necessary, or are some of these people just still in kind of a probationary period?
We have one or two that are still probationary, but they have completed their training. They're just waiting to finish their year. I have one that we will be sending to the academy, and then all of them will be academy certified too.
And last question for me, how long do you think we'll be housing any level of inmates from Grand Traverse County? Forget whether it's 20 or not, but
I think it'll be at least through this calendar year.
Oh, okay.
And the contract goes till the end of this calendar year. And we'll start revisiting that again about budget time and see where they're gonna be on their overflow. Grand Traverse has been wonderful with, if we release 2, they come and get them and they bring 2 with them. So they're keeping us right at that level of 20. And I think we can anticipate 20 additional inmates through the rest.
Brenda?
Thank you for the report. Very thorough. I just want to confirm, see if you could confirm my understanding. When I came on as a commissioner, I was told that the intention of the jail when it was designed at a 47-person capacity was to do exactly what it's doing right now, take overflow from other counties. And so we're ultimately doing what the jail was designed to do.
That is correct. This is what we were built for, and this is what we are capable of with full staff. We originally housed many inmates from Wexford, and then they built a new jail. Let it be very clear that I think some of Grand Traverse motive in this, they are overpopulated, and is to show to their commissioners the cost of having to house inmates elsewhere compared to building a new jail. I don't have any doubt that that's part of the mission on their part, to say, look how much it costs us to house them out when we could have a whole our jail and do them here. But they are overcrowded, and it's just not safe on the numbers that they have, and it's shown by the inmates telling us how happy they are to be here.
Just as a matter of history, when we had that contract with Wexford County, they were getting an additional $100,000 a year approximately going into the jail. And it's only been in the last 6 years that contract was discontinued. So
That's Wexford built a new jail.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
I do have one, if you would. What's the difference in staffing when we go from 15 to 35?
There is no difference.
Thank you.
We are focusing more on minimum staffing, making sure that if somebody calls in, we replace them. In no time do I want a very bare minimum number of staffing with this many inmates. It's an officer safety issue, and I just won't let that happen. If somebody calls in sick or has a vacation, we're going to replace them on the schedule and just ride it out.
There is someone being somewhat vocal, and I would hope that gets taken care of.
Okay, I think that it is being taken care of.
Thank you.
And part of that was communication on my part.
15 and 35, they're the same number. And I understand, the workload. So thank you. Anybody else? Here,
Currently, what does it cost us to house the inmates we have? I know I've heard the number before, because we're not making money, we're just trying to break even in a little
Right.
bit. I understand that, but I would like the public to know what it costs us to house the parts. Yeah,
I don't know, but I will come up with, by the next meeting, a price per inmate that it cost us to house them. I've never looked at that individually. I gotta say, it's pretty close to our budget. I really do. I think it's very close, but I'll see what it costs per inmate.
thank you.
anybody else?
Gary, I just tell you, if you run some very quick numbers on this, if you have a $500,000 budget, which is approximately where the jail's at, and let's say you were full, you had inmates that were all occupying beds, it's about $29 a day. If you take their budget, divide it by the number of beds, assuming there was an inmate in there all the time, that's what the cost would be on
That's if we
average.
don't have to take them to the hospital or pay healthcare.
Well, no, their budget's 500,000. That'd all be inclusive of that, wouldn't it?
The jail budget is not $500,000. It's just over $2 million for the jail.
I stand corrected. Oh, I know what it was. The 500,000 came out of the general fund. Okay,
But not this year.
I got it, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
But-
sounded good
but-
for a minute.
But with that, you also have to look at if there's one inmate, it still costs the same money.
Exactly. Kyle, now I understand the expression on your face when I said that.
Why I looked at him.
With that said, I would make the motion prepared in front of me that says that the Board of Commissioners approves the agreement with the Grand Traverse County for the housing of Grand Traverse County inmates. Agreement subject to approval as to its form by legal counsel and authorizes the chair to sign.
Benat supports.
There's a motion and support. Is there further discussion? Roll call, please.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you all very much.
Thank both of you.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure that's working. Oh, yeah, it did.
Next, elected official department heads. I'm sorry, we're on to item C.
So what you have in front of you is a memorandum of understanding from Director Corey Ellis regarding equipment that Central Dispatch has purchased or utilized grant funds to purchase. And so this memorandum of agreement or understanding, I'm sorry, would be between each entity that has equipment that Benzie, that is originated from Benzie County. This is just cleaning up records, tracking our items better, spells out the responsibilities of those equipment pieces. And so I will let the director answer any questions.
Questions for Corey?
Just,
Just,
I think, excellent way of doing it. I'm extremely happy that you're doing it, because in the past, there's been some questionable things in the recent past, way back when. I'm glad you're doing this, and that makes accountability on both ends. So just want to thank you for your efforts.
absolutely.
How many entities are you tracking?
So it's kind of hit or miss right now. Some entities use our equipment a little more than others. And I would have to go back and look in the records. I believe the current letter, I guess I would call it, that is signed between the two agencies doesn't look like this at all. It's the current one. I believe I have 6 of them. And that doesn't even cover all of the ones that operate in our county. So
Our emergency manager is holding up her finger.
Okay. Somebody that would like to make a motion?
I will make that motion. Board of Commissioners approves the memorandum of understanding, make sure I got the right one. Equipment loan for equipment purchased through Central Dispatch and loan to neighboring agencies as to form and authorizes Director Ellis to sign all such documents.
Markey will support.
There's a motion and support. Any further discussion?
I just want to note that we're authorizing the director to sign these because there will be quite a few of them. And I touched base with Matt Nordfjord on that, and he said that would be the cleanest way to go. Otherwise, that document, everyone has to come before you and they're all the same. So that's why it's authorizing Corey to sign those documents.
Roll call, please.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
motion carried.
thank you very much.
Ms. Hahn, there's something next to you on the floor. I just wanted you to know they were on the floor, ma'am. The next is a grant application for the Department of Transportation funding for Betsy Valley Trail.
We have 2 representatives here with the Friends of Betsy Valley Trail, and Commissioner Sauer serves on the Trail Management Council. These folks are here today to talk to Benzie County about the potential of being an applicant for a federal grant to the US DOT for up to $4 million to pave the trail. There are documents in the packet for you to have reviewed, as well as an email from me. These are reimbursement grants through the federal DOT. So the Benzie County would have to foot the bill and then work to get reimbursement back. And like I said, this would be up to $4 million.
Hi, I'm Laura Tremor Spears, and I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail. And I want to thank you for having us here to talk about the project a little bit, and particularly for your previous resolution of support for paving the trail from Beulah to Thompsonville when Benzonia Township applied for grant funding through the state Natural Resources Trust Fund last year, and that grant application was unsuccessful. But as you know, it can take several tries to get the right fit between the project, the grant opportunity, and the applicant. So we wanted to bring this new federal opportunity before you for infrastructure funding, because unlike most grants, there's no match required for this grant. And that was a huge hurdle for the trust fund because that required 50% match. To score high enough to be considered. So no match, and half of the federal spending will be on rural communities. So it's not like many transportation grants, which are biased towards urban communities. So we think that this region has a great opportunity here, and particularly because the state is limited and can only put in 3 applications for the entire state. Transportation agency. They're depending upon local communities to come forward and apply for this federal money for transportation projects to get funded in Michigan. So we're proposing this grant be applied for by the county because the trail touches 2 villages, 3 townships, and all of the county road crossings from Beulah to Townsendville. In addition, the county has greater administrative capacity, obviously, for a reimbursement-based grant of this size. So we thought that you would want to at least consider the opportunity to apply as the county, connecting all of the communities in a regional project that really benefits the economy and recreation for everyone. Thank you.
So, one concern is that it's a reimbursement grant. Benzie County may not be in a position to be fronting that much cash. So that could be a concern if we were to be the applicant of this grant. Another concern, and I wish Shelley Thompson was here, but she indicated that another grant that was applied for the Betsy Valley Trail Management Council, the reimbursement still has not been received, and we've received it in 2 fiscal years now. And so that's an issue. And so before anything is moved forward, we need to clean up past funding first. So there's $150,000 that still has not been received. Yes, you can.
Just got done talking to Kelly. You have all the paperwork in. May have the wrong year. It may not be able to be reimbursed till 23. I know that's quite a gap for the county to hold.
$150,000. Yeah.
4 million if we had to sit on it for 3 years. Very expensive.
We can't withstand that. No.
Anyway, it's not ignored. It's, as far as I know, she's gonna check. Paperwork has been filed and everything, as far as I know, is up to snuff.
The other thing that I think needs to be considered too, if we're supportive of this, is the staff time it takes to manage the grant. And we as the county would have to look at alternatives. I've spoke with Shelley's office in addition to mine. I don't think we have the staff time to manage a grant of this number because the federal grants do have a lot more management involved than other grants. And so if this is something that we're supportive of, we have to consider alternatives to administration of those grants. The administration is going to include seeking all of those reimbursements. That includes all of the invoices and things like that with the different contractors. And so that's something we would need to consider as well, because we don't have the staff capacity to manage a grant of this size as we stand now between Shelley's office and my office. I spoke with Shelley about that.
Katie, on that subject, and you and I, just in full disclosure, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. From start to finish is probably about a 4-week job. Would the administrative part of it go well beyond that 4 weeks?
Potentially, yeah, because we would have to be supplying paperwork until we receive every penny of reimbursement back. So it depends. I know with other grant management, especially at the federal level, there's typically a lot of back and forth because you may have not have, this sounds silly, but checking the wrong box will start you over in the process in a lot of ways. And as Ms. Spears alluded to, sometimes it takes 3, 4, 6 rounds to get federal funding. And that's because you check the wrong box. And so that could be an issue as well, is in that administrative piece of turning those things into request reimbursements, we may have to start over multiple
It's not
times.
like you would get a bill at the end of the project. You submit the bill
And then you wait.
with the supporting documentation and it's done. There's going to be a lot of trailing work probably that goes with that.
Right, until all those dollars are received back to the county, yes. Mhm.
And if I could just ask one of the friends, and I asked this the last time this was put in front of us. Economically, you have some communities that depend on snowmobilers. Remind me, is that trail going to be accessible to snowmobilers after it's paved?
Yes, the paving mix that is specified is snowmobile friendly. And in addition, this grant has many different criteria that we have to hit. So actually, that's why the grant size has increased, because we have to also provide, for example, wildlife crossings underneath the trail. So we have to meet a higher bar. So that includes the inclusion of recycled asphalt paving mix in the snowmobile mix. So that it will include, environmentally sustainable materials, recycled materials, that sort of thing. If you don't mind too, if I could address the administrative concerns, and of course, there's never any guarantees, but this grant does allow a 10% administrative cost to be budgeted. So the county could budget in the additional cost it would take to minimize some of those concerns about the burden on existing staff. And the reimbursement cycle is monthly. So as long as reports are prepared monthly, that it should, there's never any guarantees. Of course, there's a lag time while the federal government reviews everything. But hopefully it should work out okay. And I'm available as a consultant to help too. I've done this on many federal grants, just having an extra set of eyes and support team to help county staff to get through a larger grant.
Harry, as the Trail Management Committee, have you guys vetted this? You're chair of the Trail Management, right?
We don't meet till April. You haven't. No, this came up recently and Jim has reached out to me and wanted to see how it was gonna go here. No.
So it's my understanding that the Trail Management Council has talked about applying for various grants all along the way, every grant they can come forward, correct?
To try and get that.
Yeah.
Would we like a recommendation from the Trail Management Council before we would make a decision on this?
I think that that's appropriate. That's what we have. That's the process we have in line is an official recommendation. And it's my understanding that last night Parks and Recreation met and they would like to be part of the conversation as well, which I did not know that they were.
I think there's an equally big concern. I mean, I'd like to know if we funded it fully, if they're done in 4 weeks' time, potentially they're going to want to get paid 30 days after that. You're not at best case scenario, you're going to get your money 90 days after the work is done. That'd be very best.
Yeah.
How are we going to float that at 4 million? I don't see where we have the money.
Shelley also says that we can't float that kind of money.
We'd have to go out and borrow it.
Yes.
Is there some type of rule, bylaw or something on a trail that says no motorized vehicles?
Yes.
So how do you let snowmobiles?
From Beulah to Frankfurt.
Okay,
Snowmobiles are considered a non-motorized vehicle according to DNR trail rules. So non-motorized trails can have snowmobiles because it's only during winter use. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I guess I don't want to overstep, but if a phased approach is something that the county would consider, then that's certainly possible also to do a phased approach where a smaller project is proposed this time around, half of the trail or something like that.
Financially, the county could withstand that most likely, depending on the amount in the phases, but that would be an easier apple to bite off. But the up to $3 or $4 million, we don't have the cash flow for that.
no, and I'd like to see something like that in 3 or 4 phases. This is what we're gonna do, and then move, and this is what it's gonna cost front to start to finish, but at least we can spread it out over a period of time. It would soften the blow a little bit.
Yes.
The upside is that if they can get funding for $4 million, you hate to lose that opportunity, but even if you took it in smaller chunks, how does that change the administrative burden?
It doesn't. We'd have to, like I said, we'd have to consider alternatives to administrative. Because Shelley expressed that she does not have the time, and I do not either.
And I know that we've done, I think, a pretty good job on our due diligence on these things, but if we get overwhelmed and we miss some of the windows of reporting, that could jeopardize repayment.
exactly. So that's why I'm being upfront. I don't have the time to manage it. We'd have to consider alternatives like a consultant.
Couple of questions, I guess. I don't want to throw water on this. So, you know, it's a DOT grant. So it's through the roads. And I've watched the road commission do federal aid projects. And they are currently selling their federal aid money at 90 cents on the dollar because it saves them so much. The engineering cost and the follow-ups and the paperwork. They spent almost 6 months trying to get reimbursed for one little slip up in one little line. So I'm concerned. We're
Same.
gonna have to pay union scale to work on this trail, stuff like that. I'm just throwing it out there so everybody's aware of it. That stuff, I guess I would ask before I'd even apply, but
And that's why I have the concerns with the administration piece of it, because I know federal grants are very cumbersome. And we don't have the capacity to take care of that. And so we'd have to consider some sort of outside help or a consultant of some sort that has experience with managing these types of grants, because they're a lot.
I'm less concerned about the wage scale because that would be factored into your budget.
Yes.
But what I'm more concerned about really is twofold. One, the ability to fund it for any length of time at all. I mean, if you're talking about a 90-day window guaranteed,
Right.
you might be a little more comfortable. But because we have an example of that 150,000 out for nearly 2 years, that doesn't improve my comfort level at all. And the other is administrative. You know, I came from a highly regulated environment, and man, if you missed some pieces of compliance, they punished you.
Correct.
Have we talked to the road commission, or has the road commission been approached?
Yeah, I had that conversation before the manager went out of town. So we haven't been before a meeting, though. We thought we'd come to you first, and ultimately we'd have to work together.
Sure.
next meeting is Thursday. So morning at 30. If you're interested in coming and talking to them.
I know it doesn't change the administrative piece of it, but I think that a solution, I think as Bob discussed, maybe doing it in phases. It doesn't put us financially at much risk. Doesn't change the administrative part of it at all, but.
We would have to factor in the up to 10% for administrative. The other thing too is not only do we not have the capacity, nor Shelley nor I have ever managed a federal grant. And so that's an unknown too. So if we worked with a consultant, I would want to work a little closer with them to learn so that in the future, maybe we can find the capacity to manage these sort of things. But we're both unknown to that as well, which is also a concern for me. Because I don't have the experience in the background, and neither does Shelley, especially for a grant of this capacity. It's just, that's troublesome.
Well, if you could find a professional, and I know that we've had some that have worked with our county before.
Yeah.
At least in the application phase.
Yeah.
And they could, within their contract, hold us harmless if they fail to do the proper due diligence. That'd probably be the way to go.
Yeah. And I would want to work closely with that person to learn.
When does this grant have to?
This round is February 28th is my understanding, but then they have multiple rounds. It's like most grants where you keep trying. So there's multiple rounds to the grant. Am I hearing though that you want an official recommendation from the Trail Management Council and Parks and Rec?
I think those two need to talk and then come up with a consensus.
And maybe they can lay out a phased approach to bring forward to this board, because a phased approach we could figure out. But we don't have the capital to put forward that sort of money at one time. We just don't.
Speaking for myself, I really appreciate the work that you guys put into this. I mean, you do this as volunteers. It's not like you financially benefit from it. So I hate to sound like we're throwing up roadblocks, but your need is one thing, the county's need is another. And You understand, right?
We completely understand, and we're there to offer support, but obviously we would depend on all of you to make it happen. The Friends of the Betsy Valley Trail is going to continue to raise money. I think that has raised $350,000 so far, which would help with some of those upfront costs. If the wording of a memorandum of understanding could be arrived at, where the Friends could do some of those upfront payments. Of course, you're still taking a risk at being able to get every last reimbursement request together, and that's up to the county. So we'll plan on attending the road commission then on Thursday at 9:30, and then I guess we'll wait to hear back between the Trailways Management if it's going to meet.
Management council would have to have a special meeting.
I'm just not sure, though, we're gonna have all of our ducks in a row by February 28th, no matter how many special meetings you call. I mean, this is
Yeah,
a
I
big
know.
project. So,
I'm not sure we have the expertise except folks that work like the Friends and stuff on the council. They have managed some grants. It's the one, and we're still working on getting paid, so
2 fiscal years later.
that's a concern.
It isn't mine too. I think the consensus is we're not saying no.
We appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time.
But we'll look forward to the next presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
Discussion of coal property acquisition has to do with payment of the winter taxes.
So I will ask Mr. Hookterp to come up and address this. You all approved the acquisition of the coal property, I believe, pre-me. This is something that's been in the works for a while, and we're finally getting near the finish line of closing of this property. So it's been quite the process. But there's been a request as part of the closing, and so I'm going to have Ed go over that.
Okay, yeah, so this, just parenthetically, based on your last discussion, this is a grant that we didn't have to administer because the Land Conservancy took care of everything, including all the match and all the administrative stuff. Just to remind you, this is a 7-acre inholding in the Railroad Point owned by Mr. Cole. We, the county were involved in years and years of litigation over that. Eventually, Mr. Cole passed away and his heirs agreed to sell the property to the county. The Land Conservancy applied for a Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for about $700,000 plus, received that, and they raised all the matching funds for that. The property is now appraised at $1.2 million. It's 300 feet of frontage on Crystal Lake, back into the woods from there. What they're asking us to do is to pay a prorated share of the 2023 tax. Of course, it'll come off the tax rolls after 2023, but the taxes for this year have to be paid. They have set a closing date of March 14th. In my discussions with them, that's probably going to slide a couple weeks. For whatever reason, the real estate thing slided. So their estimates based on last year's taxes and a March 14th closing date were that the buyer's prorated share of this would be $19,287.32. As you know, the 2023 taxes haven't been set, so that's an estimate based on last year's. I told them, that, it's hard for me to ask the county for an undefined amount of money. They guaranteed that that's a maximum. If there's more than that, once the 23 taxes are figured out, they will pay it. Apparently, the standard real estate is that you both sides pay this, and then if the next year's taxes come out higher, the buyer ends up, of course, paying. In this case, they will pay anything over that amount. This, in my view, this is kind of a good faith thing for us. That they've made clear that if the county can't pay it, they're not going to walk away from the deal. Going to make it somehow. They are at the moment involved in a move. They're moving from one headquarters to another. If you call them up, their phone's disconnected. And There also, as you know, we received with their assistance a trust fund grant to redevelop a lot around the outlet. So they're in the process of raising $300,000 for us for that. And I would like, and they would like for them to be concentrating on that, not on coming up with the $19,000 for this tax issue. So my request would be that the county would approve this amount, $19,287.32, not to exceed, and to authorize the chair to execute the closing documents when the date comes. And soon enough, we'll have this piece of property and be able to incorporate that into the county park system.
Ed, is there any obligation from the sellers? So this is prorated back taxes.
Yeah, as they've scoped it out, based on them having 72 days of ownership and us having 293 days, they would pay $4,739.55, and we would pay the 19,000. Sounds like a lot of taxes. I don't own a $1.2 million piece of property, so I was kind of shocked at the property tax. And this, by the way, this is in Benzonia Township, which is one reason.
That tells all the story right there.
Yeah, we don't know what the taxes, what the winter taxes will be next year, because if they get started on their firehouse proposal, they may be putting something on for the bonds. So it's kind of up in the air, and the Benzonia treasurer couldn't give me a better estimate. So I went back to the conservancy and said, we need at least a maximum here, and they said, okay. So that's where we are, and it's, as I say, in my mind, it's a good faith thing. It's not a lot of money for us to pay for $1 million piece of property. If we won't do it, they will handle it somehow, but I think it's incumbent on us, particularly listening to the last discussion, all the work they've done to make this happen, to make this piece of property, the property of Benzie County. I think I hate to say it from my tiny income, but $20,000 is a small price to pay.
The purchase agreement, or whatever that looks like, that generally will spell out who's responsible for what. Does that say, when we signed that agreement, did it say that we were going to pay a proration of the taxes?
I have no idea.
Because we need to follow that.
Yeah. If it's a typical buy-sell agreement, it would have said that. I've not seen it. I'm not sure. Frankly, the grant application was kind of above my pay grade, and actually, as Katie said before her time here, the reality has been that they've handled this, and we got back and said, yeah, we'd like the property. And so what there was in terms of a prior agreement, I don't know. Typically, though, it would say that taxes for the year of closing would be prorated in this fashion, and that's how a normal real estate transaction would work.
Is there a possibility to get that question answered?
Yeah, I guess we, yeah.
I really think the conservancy ought to be here to answer. They're the ones purchasing the property. And I assume that they're transferring it to Benzie County.
They're gifting
at
it
the
to
end of the
us.
year.
Yeah,
No, they're transferring to Benzie County this
immediately.
on March 14th. on the
It's
closing.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The way this particular thing worked was that the conservancy went ahead and bought it. So it's being transferred not from Mr. Cole, but from the conservancy. And it's very possible that we're discussing now actually is the buy-sell agreement. So what happened was this suddenly became available. And so the conservancy checked with Parks and Rec and with you all and agreed to do this, and then applied for the grant with our support, received the grant, put up all the match funds themselves, and they bought the property. So now it belongs to the conservancy, and it's being transferred to us directly from them. not from the prior buyer, Mr. Cole. So whether there even is a formal buy-sell agreement between them and us.
I'm a little confused on the taxes. I mean, it was done through a grant. Any way you look at it, that's tax money that purchased the property. And then they did some of the matching through the conservancy. I'm confused as to why there's property taxes on it at all.
Because it's still private property. The property taxes will end as of 2023. But according to the township treasurer, you don't take it off the tax rolls in the middle of the year. It's on the tax rolls through that year, through the current year. Once it becomes owned by the county, it will come off the tax roll. So we're talking about the current year.
So the liability right now is with the conservative.
Yep, and they've made clear this is an ask. You know, if we say this is too complicated, too expensive, whatever, they will they'll find a way to do it. They've been very upfront with that. My thing is, you know, we've asked them, you know, all the questions you had about how do we administer a grant, how much does it cost? They've done all that on this, and they're going to do much of it on our upcoming grant, including raising $300,000. And so, you know, I would like to take the extra step to make things easy for them because they've made things so easy
Well,
for us.
sure, they'll take a check. I really feel that they need to be here.
Well, and yeah, and I can ask them to come. That's
just me.
Yeah.
But where I'm confused is if it's in the Conservancy's name, and the Conservancy, the way they're organized, wouldn't pay property taxes.
This is confusing.
Well,
So if they wouldn't pay property taxes, what are they asking us to prorate?
they would pay tax. This property is still, as of today, on the tax roll.
Under whose name?
Under the Conservancy. Yeah, you're not correct that that simply by them owning it, it doesn't come off the tax roll. It has to be open to the public, and there's certain things. So during this transition, which and really that's what we're talking about is just the transition. During this transition from Cole to the Conservancy to the county, it's still on the tax roll. So Benzie County and in this state, in this case, the state educational system are still being funded by that property.
Because
And I suppose it's for local government planning that you don't start the year with a huge property on there and then rip it off, you know, in the middle.
it doesn't come off mid-year. You have to finish the tax year cycle.
Yeah.
So the Conservancy just took title to it last year.
When did they take title to it?
It would, I'm sure it was in 2022.
Yeah, okay, all right.
So that's, you have to basically finish out that
Right.
cycle.
Yeah.
So that's what this is.
And this request is to finish that transition, clean up all that, and then make it part of the Railroad Point Park.
So I'm aware that the Railroad Point enjoys an endowment fund. What is the reason the endowment fund can't cover these costs as this property pertains to Railroad Point? It's going to become an addition to Railroad.
Without looking, I don't see any reason. I mean, if there are sufficient, if there are sufficient earnings in that fund at this moment to fund that or part of it, I don't see any reason other than that, as you know, with everything else, if we spend the money on that, it's not available for whatever else. But
If I remember correctly, the proceeds are usually around $5,000 a year.
in there, yes, yeah, and there is some, there's some from past years available, so I can't quote an amount, but I suspect it's in the low teens that's available. But sure, that could, I'm assuming that money would be available. That's restricted somehow, but it is a railroad point. Probably would be.
Oh, am I hearing we want some more questions asked before
I would like to.
we move on this?
I'd like to have some clarification of it, not the exact dollar amount, but the timing and how it happened. And, you know, have them here maybe be more specific.
think the Conservancy can enlighten us on the law that allows them not to pay taxes. And that would give me an answer as to what's really going on here. I understand what Ed's talking about, but it just seems out of line for Conservancy property, especially when you look at some of these townships that have a lot of it, their tax base just went south. So, like to get more answers if possible.
I feel the same way.
The clarity on the transition period is what I have a question on.
Okay, I will see if I can get them to come to your next meeting, since it appears that the March 14th date is gonna slide to the beginning of April. I assume that we're not in a huge time crunch on this. I know that they have to, the hard and fast deadline is that all this has to be taken care of by the 1st of May.
Would it be out of line to request a summarized settlement page with the sale price and the dates and just to bring especially new commissioners up to speed?
No, that would be, and that would certainly be provided, before the signature. What they wanted to know is the question of the money. But yeah, I'll ask that. In fact, I think I've seen something like that, and it's a complicated thing because it's involved with a state grant that there's what they paid Coles, there's what they got from the grant, there's what it's appraised at now for the transfer, there's the taxes in the transition. So I will.
Has there been other funds that the county's provided for this
No,
project?
and that's what I'm particularly interested in is we've gone through this whole grant process and we've not spent a nickel. So at this point, we have a $1.2 million piece of property coming into our ownership, and we've not spent a nickel or other than some discussion time, any administrative efforts on it.
Okay.
Well, in addition to the settlement statement, I think we need to look at the purchase agreement too. Because either you're obligated to pay it or you're not. And that should have been spelled out at the time that, we reached some kind of agreement with them. Rather than just doing it on the fly.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. The question is, if we didn't do it then, we didn't have an agreement then, what do we do? But I will get back to them. As I said, it was difficult for them to be here this week because they're moving their headquarters and they're kind of incommunicado, but they've indicated that, they're happy to come and have their person come. I'll ask them. And when's the next, do you want them at the next meeting?
Valentine's Day.
Ooh.
And just to add in, currently cash on hand from the endowment fund is $16,700.
That's
would
what
like
can be
to-
utilized.
Yeah.
The endowment fund is larger than that. That's the
Right,
portion.
that's the portion can be utilized.
And when, and we would like to spend some of that. We've got some planning and some administrative things to do on our next grant. So there are uses for that money too, but we'd like to get this squared away and get this piece of property
I would
into
also
the.
like to know, this has been done in the past. Leelanau County, Grand Traverse County, where they purchased property. I'm sure this is not the first time. At least I'm guessing it's not the first time that this has ever come up. And did any of the government entities pay in? I would like to know.
Well, yeah, I'll find
I'd
out.
be interested.
Typically, the government entities are paying part of the match. So,
They're paying all of it, Ed, because
right.
they lose the tax base to a certain extent. You
Right.
pick up some stuff, but they
Yeah.
lose that tax revenue.
It's true. I think, and we'll let them explain it. When at some point on natural resources trust fund grants, payment in lieu of taxes kicks in. But I think that may be only if the
It's
state
not through
retains
the
ownership.
Conservancy.
Right, not through the Conservancy and not through the county, but let's find out. I see what you're talking about. My own feeling is I'd like this taken care of because I want them to start raising the $300,000 for another thing. And I suspect that, when it comes out, what's the thing? You can pay me now or you can pay me later. this is a cheap thing and a good deal, but I respect your need to understand exactly what we're paying and why and when. So,
We have to protect the taxpayers of this county, and this is how I feel about this.
yeah, well,
Thank you.
I totally agree. And I feel that the taxpayers are going to benefit from having this wonderful piece of property available to them for generations. But this is, it's important issues. You need to know, they need to know, and I will request their presence. And I think I understand the questions we want them to be able to answer, but I'll go over that with Katie also and ask for their presence here at the next meeting.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Ed.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care. EMS Advisory Board Ad Hoc Committee.
Passed around earlier in the meeting was 3 new memos with new suggested motions for these ad hoc committees. In my quickness of typing, I just simply assign the chair and vice chair to all the ad hocs, which I know is inappropriate. And so now the motions read chair and then 2 blanks in addition to my office and a representative from the respective board, so that whoever makes the motion can plug in the commissioners appropriate for the ad hoc interview committee. The first one is for the EMS Advisory Committee. This one is going to involve a little more than just interviewing applicants. I want to have some discussion regarding the makeup of this committee and its purpose. So over the years, this committee has morphed in various ways because there was different needs and wants for EMS and ALS in Benzie County. It originally was put in place for an ALS service. Well, now we have an ALS service. What's the purpose of this committee? The other thing about the committee that's very odd and unique to only Benzie County is we have staff serving on this committee during their working hours. Now they're not there if they're on a call, but that's odd that the staff is serving on this committee. And I spoke with legal counsel, and by them serving on this committee and this committee advising on the operations of EMS, it could be construed as them bargaining outside of the bargaining agreement, which is a huge problem. And so I want the ad hoc committee to be established to talk about the purpose, talk about the makeup of the board, and then make recommendations going forward. As we currently sit, we do have a vacancy on the board for a fire representative. Another, just over the years, words have been tweaked on different documents, and it said on the documents from the clerk's office, a fire chief representative. Well, that's not exactly true. The bylaws say a fire representative appointed by this board. Whereas the last couple of appointments, the group of fire chiefs said, we're sending this one to the committee, and this board didn't actually choose the appointment, and it should have been. So just cleaning up the process and really cleaning up the makeup of that board is what I want this ad hoc to be able to do.
Just one thing that struck me. All these appointments are made by the Board of Commissioners.
They're supposed to
As
be.
far as I know, we've always had 3 commissioners sit on these. They are the only ones that can vote. They use the other folks as advisory,
Yes,
and I just wanted to get that clarity out there because they are our appointment.
correct. Yep. So typically my office asks all the questions and kind of facilitates the meeting. And then typically you have the chair from the respective board to just kind of be there as a sounding board to get their take on things. But ultimately the commissioners are the ones who make a recommendation to the full board for appointment.
Like their input.
Mhm.
Did I hear you start a motion?
I think I was trying to figure out which one I should read here.
It says EMS.
There's EMS on both of these.
You,
I grabbed the wrong one.
The handout is just to
The
be
new
more
one,
either that or
inclusive.
the Board of Commissioners establish an ad hoc interview committee to make recommendations regarding member roster and vacation.
vacant, sorry.
Oh, vacation.
Vacation position. I want that one.
Well, okay, sorry. On the Emergency Medical Service EMS Advisory Committee and the chair and 2 blank commissioners, administer designee.
They want you to
You
submit,
gotta plug names
plug
in.
names in there.
For this one?
That's
Yes.
why the blanks are there,
Okay,
so you
well,
can
we'll
plug
start with
names in.
Markey. How's that? Who else wants to do that?
I know
You're
this
gonna
is,
be on there, right, Bob?
Yeah.
so, yep, Bob and Marky, so one other commissioner.
Looking for a volunteer. Hey, Kevin?
Did you put your hand up? I saw something.
Sure, I'll do it.
There you go. Yeah.
And Mrs. Nye, Administrator Designee, Director Tom King, and the current Chair of the EMS Advisory Committee be appointed to such committee. It's got to be spell checked.
I'm sorry.
No,
Janai supports.
Wasn't my best memo.
that was good.
There's a motion and support. Further discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Sauer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
motion carried.
You want me to, do you want to say anything before I move on the Benzie Transportation Authority?
Isn't Parks and Recreation
Parks and
next?
Rec is
Oh,
next.
is that next? Okay.
Yeah. Same situation. So for Parks and Recreation, there's a new motion in front of you. This one is specifically because we have 4 open position and 5 applicants. 4 of the 5 applicants are current reappointments. The 5th applicant served on the Parks and Rec in the past. So being consistent with our policy and giving everyone an opportunity, this ad hoc would interview all 5 folks. And if someone came in the meantime, we'd interview them as well. And then you will make a recommendation to this board for appointment to those 4 positions. And Evan serves on this one for whoever makes the motion.
Well, I would volunteer with him.
I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners establishes an ad hoc interview committee to make recommendations regarding 4 terms on the Park and Recreations Commission. Terms expiring December 31st, 2025, and that the chair, Commissioner Worsacki, Commissioner Sauer, the Administrator Designee, and Ed Hoopta, Chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee, be appointed to such committee.
He's still the chair, right?
I ask before we move on, would we?
I'd like to have
Support.
support, please.
Second. Oh, I was just
No.
gonna. We're forming ad hoc committees. Do we want to add an agenda item to the committee of the whole to go over dates when they'll meet at that time?
That's fine, unless you want to do doodle polls. I don't know how comfortable you all are with doodle polls. Gary's really comfortable with them.
Oh, I'm really good.
I don't like them because the dates I always pick are not the ones used.
Oh, yeah.
The only question I would have is, Bob, it looks like as chair, you're being assigned to all of these. You don't have a problem with that?
No.
Okay. Just trying to share the workload.
Thank you. I appreciate your concern.
He loves being
That's
here.
been done in the past.
I think, yeah, since I've been here, it's always the chair and then 2 others.
So motion and support, further discussion, roll call, please.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thank you. Ad hoc committee for Benzie Bus.
I'd volunteer for that.
Board of Commission, I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners establish an ad hoc interview committee, make recommendations for 1 term expiring April 30th on the Benzie Transportation Authority, and that the chair, Commissioner, well, let's see, Worsacki's on that, right?
But his daughter is going to be applying, so we shouldn't add him to that ad hoc.
Well, then we need another volunteer. Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Janai, Administrator Designee Jessica Garland, Executive Director of Benzie Boyd, be appointed to such committee.
Mark, you'll support.
At this point, we just have the 1 applicant on file for Mr. Halliday. But it's my understanding that Evan's daughter, Mary, is going to be applying as well. So there will be 2 applicants at least that will be interviewed. And we will talk about as an ad hoc, but Mr. Halliday is, I think, in another state and wants to interview via Zoom. And so we will have to discuss how we would like to proceed, because typically we want the applicants here for those sorts of interviews.
We need a support on this yet.
No, I got it.
I think you got it.
Yeah, Tim Markey.
Tim supported.
Is it just 1 position?
So
All right, now it's Mr. Halliday, but
Yeah, but is there only 1 position on the board?
There's just 1 position.
my question on this is, why isn't the chair or the president of that group in the interview versus Jessica?
She is.
She's the president of the committee also?
No, John Morse is the president of the committee.
He will be invited. Yep,
Okay.
sorry. If you want to adjust the motion to add him, we will invite him.
Adjust the motion to add the chairman of the.
I'll still support.
All right, thank you. Motion and support, further discussion? Roll call, please.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Knight. Yes. Roloffs.
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
motion carried.
Thought we were supposed to assign Evan to all this stuff because he's not here.
Can, he went and got his family invited.
Being that his
Right.
daughter is interviewing, I think it's inappropriate.
Probably not a good idea.
Item I, consideration of Veteran Affairs Coordinator, Karen Korolenko for a full-time position.
So Ms. Korolenko is meeting with a veteran right now. I was going to try to have her here, but she has somebody in her office, so we'll go ahead without her. Ms. Korolenko has been serving as a contracted employee with Benzie County since the end of 2018, serving our veterans. The time that she spends in the office far exceeds what the contract was allowing. There was a try of an amendment to that contract in, I think, 2020, but it never was fully amended. And so we sat down, the Veterans Affairs Committee expressed their interest in making her full-time because her workload is that of such. And so I sat down with the chairman, Ms. Korolenko, and Jackie Pelfy to talk about this and, is it warranted? And so she expressed to me, the amount of time she's spending to be the veterans coordinator and the fact that she's serving so many veterans in Benzie County. In 2021, she served 375 veterans. In 2022, she served 548 veterans. And already in 2023, she's anticipated to serve 109 veterans just in January. The economic impact of Benzie County, because she's helping these folks get benefits, monetary benefits and other, the economic impact I know just in 2021, she enlightened was about $2 million to Benzie County, the county, not government itself, which is huge. Her workload is such that the 20 to 25 to 30 hours she's been working just isn't enough for her. And, we are dedicated to this position and this makeup. And so we sat down and we decided it does make sense to make her full-time and to actually have her as a county employee and not a contracted employee. She is one of us. She's here in our building. That making her a full-time employee would increase her salary about $13,000 from what she's being paid now. And then it would offer her benefits such as our retirement DC plan. She won't be taking health benefits. We've already talked about that. So really the biggest benefit for her is that retirement plan, which she'd then be part of. Her budget can withstand it. She has quite a bit of funds into fund balance and anticipated just for this year, her fund balance is going to grow by about $45,000. And that's because she is so successful at grants, and every year she's here, the more grants we receive. So the funds are there to warrant making her full-time to fully pay for that. And that's without increasing the millage to the taxpayers. For the foreseeable future, we can withstand the increase to make her full-time as a department head. Is there any questions?
She's going to be entering into the defined contribution retirement?
No, the DC.
Oh, the defined contribution.
Yeah,
Okay.
defined contribution. Sorry. No, it'd be the DC program because before she was a contracted employee, so she didn't have any of those benefits. So now she's technically a new employee for Benzie County.
In the Veterans Affairs Committee, they're recommending this.
Correct. So our small group of the chairman, Ms. Korolenko, Jackie and I met. Jackie, I, and the chairman warranted it, brought it forward to the Veterans Affairs Committee, where they took action to recommend it as well.
And would this position fall under administration as far as supervisory?
Correct. Yep. So all along it was supposed to, but prior administration, it never rolled out that way. So she has been reported to the treasurer's office. So we've met and spoke about that. And now she's coming to our office as she should have been all along. But she will fall under my office as a department head. So just like equalization, emergency management, 911, and those sorts. It's still your appointment and the Veterans Affairs appointment. I would administer as the resolution put in place.
In surrounding communities, this position would be an employee of the county also.
Yes, so, and I believe we talked about Manistee, that's the case, and other counties, yes, that's the case, where they're actual employees of the county, they're part of the county roster. Now, the funny thing is that you've been approving in the budgets all these time as a rostered position. Don't know why. So she's already on the roster as a county position, but she was a contracted position all along. And again, that was a prior administration thing as to why that was that way.
I didn't even know it was in there because it used to be contracted with Grand Traverse County.
Correct.
And Leelanau County continues to contract.
Correct.
Yeah.
Manistee is
Their own
county
employee,
I
yeah.
know that. What's
So
the total cost?
what do you mean?
Well, she's not gonna take health insurance, so I'm sure she's gonna get a stipend for that.
$66.
And the 52 base salary is not
That's about,
FICA.
that's
Our share of
13,000.
FICA, those kind of things. And then, of course, the retirement. I'm looking at, I hate to add employees to a government thing, so you know where I stand.
So just the
Um,
base salary is $13,000. If the county puts in 2% into her retirement, so 2% of $52,000 is what we're going to put in retirement. And then the FICA, which is 1.87 for one, 2.43% for the other. So altogether, 13 plus all those percentages, we're looking at $18,000 to $20,000 a year as a total hit to Benzie County, which her budget can withstand. Like I said, this year, she's projected to have about a $45,000 surplus.
So what would have happened if you would have gave her a bigger raise as a contract employee? Have we been doing her taxes all along? Hey, I got your answer.
It was not administered properly in the past. And by making her an employee, that's the right transition.
I don't want.
I don't understand the question. Have we been doing her taxes?
Is she
Have we
being,
been doing her
getting
withholding and
is
stuff?
she getting a W-2 or a 1099?
She should have been giving a 1099 and she's
Correct.
been getting a W-2.
No. Uh-oh.
She's basically been an employee anyway, so I guess we're just approving it.
Right.
Yeah.
For all
I
intents
don't have an issue.
And again, that's a prior administration issue and how it rolled out. And I mean, this is correcting it going forward. It's just another one of those things we're correcting going forward. It's just like the 2020 agreement. It never was fully approved yet. Prior administration implemented some of the benefits as part of that amended agreement. It's been very convoluted and not administered properly. By making her an employee, this cleans up the process. And I do believe we're vested in this service. And so to make her a department is the appropriate move.
So for all intents and purposes, she's in office of one.
Yep.
Now, but she would be a department head, attending the department head meeting.
Yep.
And reporting to the board on occasion to keep us up to speed.
And I've
with-
asked her to start doing that as well.
So I took the time prior to the meeting to making some calls to your board members, Bob. And I got nothing but positive feedback. I was told consistently that the workload had nearly doubled. I consider that to be a positive because that tells me that vets then are knowing that the service is available. Regardless of how we market it, I'm glad to know that they understand that. The last statistic I saw was nearly 10% of our population is made up of veterans. So I'm glad that we provide this level of service. With all of that said, I'd like to make the recommendation that the commissioners approve the Veterans Coordinator position as a full-time at-will position and offers this position to Karen, who has served as a part-time contracted employee in this position since 2018, and that it would terminate the contract dated December 10, 2018 related to this position.
Markey will support.
Motion and support, further discussion.
I have,
Go ahead.
may
Yes.
I? When you said the department has a surplus, does it carry over to the next year? Okay.
So the
All
fund
right.
balance sits there and continues to increase or decrease based on the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Now, you'd find it interesting, by the way, in the history of the county with respect to special millages, up until recently, the veterans are the only ones that said, I don't need to collect as much and actually decreased it.
Mhm.
Then there's some irony in that, but, so I think that they've been pretty diligent, and I was skeptical of this at first. But after making some phone calls, it became obvious that this makes sense to me.
And just for conversation, when I started with Veterans Affairs here, they were levying 0.08. And we took a look at it and took a look at how the finances were being handled, which was not correct. Within a couple of years, we dropped 2%, and then we dropped another 2. So it's been at 0.04 for close to 6 years. And don't see any activity right now that's saying that we need to increase it at all. We're very aware of what goes on and how it works within Veterans Affairs. We have a good board. You were right about the 10%. That's pretty much a national number. This year county's population, 10% of them are veterans. So, and for you that aren't aware, when somebody comes in to file a claim, and if it's a claim for disability benefits, I can stack all the paper up I have right here, and that's less than what one claim takes sometimes. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. I can't guess how many forms, but it's a lot of communication, a lot of research, and at the end of the day, we need somebody that's well-educated in that position.
And part of maintaining this position, she's required to maintain a certain number of hours of continuing education as well as hours in the office. So she has to maintain a minimum of 1,000 hours anyways per the statute. And she goes to training, certifications, continuing ed, because if she doesn't go to that continuing ed, she actually loses the certification that allows her to be a coordinator. So she will have continuing education that continues in this position no matter what, because that is required to maintain that certification.
That's a national accreditation that she has to maintain.
Mhm.
I believe she also has I think she's represented by the American Legion as well. So that's a 3 or 4 day conference once a year as well.
Mhm.
Many service organizations have those service officers in place. So it's always good to be able to reach out to see what's going on internally.
Mhm.
And Bob, there was a time, I believe, that the board members were having to intervene. This is prior to 18, that they were having to intervene sometimes with vets to get them to certain places because Travers was really doing an inadequate job. Has Karen been able to pick up some of that slack for the board?
Yeah, a little bit. So through the local disabled American veterans, they have a transportation department. Manistee has a couple of cars. So if there's any veterans from that area going this way, even here, you can get a hold of Manistee and they'll take you to any veteran related appointment. Traverse City has 2 cars. When healthcare and VA changed and allowed to be accessed more with local providers, the DAV's transportation slowed down here because a lot of that is outsourcing to local facilities. But every day somebody's going to the clinic, the new clinic at Chum's Corners, or to any other medicals, or the drivers go as far as Saginaw, Detroit, Ann Arbor if need be. And it's a day trip. You leave in the morning, come back in the evenings or night. So yes, they are providing those transportations. We're actually meeting with Benzie Bus on our next meeting to see if what we can do to get on board with them to try to get a direct route to the VA clinic and back. I don't know how it's going to work, but I've contacted Jessica and asked her to be at our next meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
I'll throw out there, all the drivers are volunteers.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, DAV buys, I don't know how many cars a year, 200 to 300 nationally. There are not that many in Michigan, especially now since they've changed to local health cares. But otherwise, the DAV cars out of Traverse City were headed south 4 out of 5 days a week. And it's all provided at a discount from Ford Motor Company. Federal government actually owns the car when it's incepted. And when it comes time to turn that vehicle around, the new title gets generated by the receiving facility, which for this area is Saginaw, VA. Then they'll send a title application up to the local chapters. And then whoever purchases it goes and gets a new title and owns it. So they're great cars. They usually sell the Traverse City ones at about 100,000 miles. So very well maintained, and it's a good deal. So there is a motion and support for the Veterans Affairs Coordinator. Motion by Art, supported by Tim. If there's no more discussion, roll call, please.
Janai,
Yes.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs,
Yes,
Yes.
Sauer, Cunningham,
Yes.
motion carried.
thank you. Let's welcome Polly and Brianne. Now it's item J. Consider the appointment of Brianne Lindsay to Equalization Department position.
So this board put together an ad hoc interview committee where we all sat down with Miss Lindsay to talk about this position, and the board, that committee unanimously recommended Brianne to serve as our next equalization director. We're excited about the progress that she's made under Polly's mentorship. And we're really excited to hear about our future goals with Benzie County. Brianne is vested into Benzie County. She's been with us for about 10 years now. And so we know that she will serve Benzie County well. I've asked both of them to be here. So if there's any questions, technical questions from an equalization standpoint, or if you want to hear directly from Polly, who's been mentoring Brianne for the last couple of months, they're here for your questions.
So I'll partway introduce Polly, and we just met last week. Benzie County contracted with Polly to get us through this equalization
Corrective action plan.
We were in hot water, literally, and with her help and help from her employer for letting us use her.
And my husband.
And your husband. We're between Polly and Brandy, Brianne, sorry, work together to get us where we're even with the state for their requirements. So put the ball in your court for a minute.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You may also know me because I'm your designated assessor as well. This has worked out very well. We have good communication with the state. We're online with compliance. The compliance will continue through state equalization. So that's the middle of May. But we've been on time the last month with all of our documents needing to be uploaded and providing the corrective action plan to the state monthly, the first Friday of the month. We'll have one again for next month, and working well with the assessors. So they really appreciated the changes that we made and got everything. Like I said, we had all the documents uploaded into their system. And when we went to the last equalization directors meetings, we were not the only ones. We had all of our documents up. There were still some equalization directors who were full-time, did not have all their documents uploaded to the state website. So very proud about that. We work well together. She's a quick learner. It's been a pleasure to work with her and work with Trish. So I really appreciate the opportunity to help you out. Brings me great joy that we can get past that and move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'd be inclined not to second guess the interview committee. I mean, that's what we have them there for. What I'm probably more attentive to is that going forward, this is new for you. Are you going to be available, even if it's on a contract basis, to mentor her at least through the next year?
Yes, we've discussed that, and we'll go forward with the existing contract, and then we'll discuss it again when we get closer towards the end of the contract. But yes, I can do that. My schedule, I'm really good at managing my schedule. So I am able to be in contact with them and take any questions that they have. So they're via email, they can use my phone, my personal phone, they can text me, and we can walk through that. And I'm trying to anticipate where we're going to be each month coming forward, so I can share that with the staff so they can prepare and start to learn it. So it's working out well, and I think I can make it to the end of the year.
Just want to make sure that you have the resources to be successful.
Yes.
You're successful, we're successful. So,
And the state wants that as well, believe me.
we learned.
Yes, we did.
And so Polly has really kind of thrown Brienne in as far as networking and that kind of thing. And so Brienne has already started to build that professional network that she needs to support her. She has been going to the monthly meetings for the Northern Equalization Directors as well as the meetings for the state. And so she's really, really getting plugged in to having that social network or that professional network to really support her. Her and I have already sat down as well with the Human Resources, Jackie Pelfy, to talk about what she needs from Benzie County to be successful. So we're already working on those things as well, as far as, you know, when this appointment happens, what does she need to be successful in that position? So we're already having those conversations because we want her to succeed.
So we have money budgeted for training.
Yes.
Okay.
And that was very important to Brian. Interview, the training, her vision for moving that department forward focused a lot on being, doing the trainings and supporting her staff, being trained thoroughly as well, and not being such a siloed department in terms of the things they needed to know. We had lengthy discussions about that.
Okay.
Obviously, we gotta hire somebody else too, right? Or have we?
No, not yet. So
I just want to make sure that we're all on board as far as training your staff, move a lot of your stuff into the future, and I'm really happy this is working out.
and those are the conversations we've had, the cross training. You know, we don't want the ball to fall if somebody's sick.
Right.
So we've talked about the cross training, and Brianna is very much for that cross training. We will have to hire an additional person in the office because this will continue to leave a vacancy just in a different position. And so Brianne and Jackie are already working on reviewing the job descriptions to bring them into the 21st century. To really make sure that they're encompassing what the job actually does so that we can go out with an accurate, up-to-date job description to find folks to serve in that office.
We also discussed in the interview that the weight of making this change, you know, there's going to have to be a pivot as Brienne becomes a department head. The dynamics of the relationship is have to change, and she's very cognizant of that. And I found that administration again was being very supportive and mentoring her through that and providing avenues for Brienne, you know, should things arrive. We have our new HR department with Jackie. It was very positive, and she seemed to really grasp that this is going to be a change, and she welcomes it and is ready to take it on.
I will say, talking with teachers that were handled previously, we're working on restructuring the department, so things do run smoother and there's maybe a more efficient use of their time. So, and then that's also, you know, makes it easier to work with the township. So I think a lot of the townships were very happy. We had class on Friday with the state tax for an update. And I heard from several of the assessors how happy they were with the work project. So that made us very, very happy.
And Katie, just for clarification for the public, when you said we're hiring an additional employee, all we're doing is filling a vacancy as a result of this promotion.
Correct. There'll still be 3 folks who serve in that office.
All righty.
I'll make the motion.
Good.
Happy to do so. Read it again. That the Board of Commissioners appoint Brianne Lindsay to the position of Equalization Director for Benzie County and authorizes the chair to sign the necessary documents to submit this decision to the State Tax Commission.
9 seconds.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Markey,
Yes.
Nye,
Yes.
Roloffs.
Yes.
Sauer,
Yes.
Cunningham,
Yes.
Janat,
Yes.
motion carried.
Very good. Thank you, ladies.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
You're the boss. Thank you.
Does anybody need a break?
Yeah.
Thank you. We're gonna take a 7-minute break. Move on to commissioner reports. I've attended a half a dozen meetings or so. We did have a VA admin meeting that was Katie and myself and Karen, Jackie. EMS last week. Unfortunately, Tom wasn't there, so that's some pretty good discussion. But the big stock now is that our next meeting tomorrow would probably move forward and get this new ambulance coming, which, as Tom said, is about 2 years out. 911, haven't seen that group in a little bit. Pretty much business as usual. New state trooper at the new lieutenant at the Traverse City Post. Help me with his name. Steve Porter. Sat in an equalization interview, gender review, and we're here today. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer them. If not, you have Mr. Janet's report.
I'd just like to add a couple of things if I could.
Okay.
First, at the EDC meeting on Friday, the chamber's been looking for a volunteer to represent the EDC as a summary. And we were going to ask Katie to do it, but apparently she's already got a segment of that. So I'll be representing the EDC unless somebody steps forward, and would like to do that at the meeting on February 13th. And the other is, and it's not to have this debate today, but we're struggling with our own identity with the EDC. They've done a marvelous job of getting the broadband where they're currently at. But the question is, and we got some really talented people there. When you have talented people, you got to use their time wisely. So the question's asked, what does our future look like? What do you really need us for? And I'd like to get some input from this group in that discussion.
I got a question for her, I guess.
Okay.
When was your last Lake Township meeting? That during this cycle, or was it?
Yeah, it was it was in my last report.
I see that they hired Josh Mills,
Right.
coordinator, and then it appears by the paper, if I can believe what's in the paper, he's going to abandon about 3 townships. That your understanding?
Well, that's a question for Josh, but he did say during his introduction at the board meeting that he was going to have to cut a couple of other obligations he has in order to make this work. Now, that's as far as he went, and that'd be a question better suited for him.
I'm just curious. It seemed kind of odd that they would put that in the paper. Anyway.
Yeah, especially if he hadn't discussed it with them.
Yeah, because I know the other townships that he's at, and I'm not sure which ones he's going to walk away from, but they have not brought it up. Okay, thank you.
I don't know if Joanne has any more information on that or not. Okay.
Work in progress.
That's all I've got.
Thanks, Art. Karen?
I went to Frankfurt City Council. I'm pleased to report that the dog park is a go. It's been a couple of years in the process. A few years in the process as mayor, and it's a go. And I have that in my report where it's going to be located there in Charles Kibbe Park, the city launch site. On 16 February, 1 to 3, Frankfurt City Hall will be hosting a workforce housing workshop. And I have the phone number there if you have further questions and want to find out more information on that. Frankfurt will be submitting a letter of intent written to place a radio tower on Tank Hill. It should be, that way it will be kind of hidden and up there and very receptive. So we're happy about that letter of intent. Mayor Hawarda and Councilman Olson went to Crystal Lake Township
There is a park on Bellows that is owned by Frankfurt, and they have it funded to get the water park and everything was there. Frankfurt is looking for an additional amount of funds and went to Crystal Lake for that, and that is still up for discussion, how that might be addressed. I went to my first meeting at the Benzie Area Chamber. Fantastic group. I thank you for the opportunity to go there. It was discussed that Steve Campbell is going to chair the awards committee for profit and nonprofit and for business of the year. And then just as a community, the Frankfurt Library hosted an event, a book read and movie and discussion at the Garden Theater. So just went to that as a community service. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, yeah.
No, I was just gonna say, when Benzonia Township put in the dog park, I'm gonna reluctantly admit that I thought it's never gonna get used. It is used all the time.
Good feedback.
It is such a community asset and I was wrong.
And I appreciate that. And the dog park is located right in town. It does have water. It has all, it's small, but we're hoping for the same thing.
My question is, how did they know that short-term rentals jumped 20%? They through permits or?
I believe that is exactly, that was reported and it was, I'm not quite sure how they got that number. But the planning, he was there that day or that evening, and that was just what he stated. It was a 20%. And I would assume, if I dare say that, that it was through permits.
I'm guessing it's probably low. I don't know.
No. Oh.
It's okay. I was curious where they got the 20% increase, where those numbers came from.
Increase in what?
That's Crystal
Short-term
Lake
rentals.
Township.
Oh, that was short. Oh, okay.
Crystal
Guess I
Lake
misread it.
Township.
I'm sorry.
We did successfully pass ours finally last night.
You
It's
have
been
an
a
ordinance
rocky
now?
road, yeah, but no, Frankfurt basically used a 10 to 12% limit on short-term rentals. What we used.
Thank you.
Okay.
Guess I misread it, but.
Yeah, that's Crystal Lake. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Karen?
I have one. With regards to the radio tower on Tank Hill,
Yes.
what kind of services are going to be on that radio tower?
Ooh.
The agreement was just to save that space for that 800 megahertz radio tower.
That's-
all it is right now. It's just-
Thank you, Rebecca. That's what I was looking for. I wasn't sure what that was for.
Yep, that's all it is.
Okay,
Thank you.
Reserving the space for the.
thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Good. Brenda?
Sure, thank you. I attended agenda review. I attended the Village of Beulah. Corey Carlin resigned as the zoning administrator for the Village of Beulah, and Tim Cipher was hired. He comes with experience and he came to the position prepared to engage with the community. The board seemed pretty pleased with what he submitted out of the gate. So that's a good change there. The village received a violation notice for their municipal sewer system, which will lead to an ACO, which is an administrative consent order. And those are used to address non-compliance challenges. They knew this was coming. They're working with the state. They are open to the changes that need to be made and are, I think, looking for the opportunities the sewer feasibility study might provide, but this is coming down the pipe. There are improvements that need to be made. And we knew that. I attended Benzonia Township meeting. They're looking at new playground equipment for the spring. Their master plan will be considered for approval at the February meeting. Chad Hollenbeck was there. He gave the Benzie Bus annual report, and they are still considering implementing security cameras at the park at a cost of about $30,000. So Jason Watson thought that those cameras might have been helpful when they had some of those catalytic converters cut off their cars.
Oh,
The
no.
back of the. I attended the Central Wellness meeting. There was a MyFast presentation, which stands for Michigan Fidelity Assistance Support Team. They are trauma-informed care. She just stressed that there is a shift in trauma-informed care from asking people what's wrong with you to what happened to you. There's a realization that most people have experienced trauma. There was a long discussion regarding the SUD board and the information that they're provided. Apparently, Richard Schmidt, who attends with Commissioner Markey, produced the documents that was accounting of funds, and they were 2022 documents. And there was just a general consensus that the information that the folks have on that board isn't leading to good decisions. So the board asked that a motion be made to send a letter asking for better accuracy in numbers and in the presentations of what they're voting on. I'll let Marky fill in the gaps there. I attended the Benzie Housing Collaboration. John Stinson was there with Homestretch. He addressed the units in honor. Of those 8, the 6 lower income rentals are rented. They are still looking for Benzie candidates for the 2 higher income. And by higher income, that's defined as 80% of the AMI, which would be around 60,000, which would put rent right around, so 60% of 80,000 is around 48,000 the base rent on, which would be about $950 a month plus utilities. They're going to look for Benzie candidates till the end of the month, and if they don't find Benzie candidates, they're going to look at their list from Traverse City to rent to. They gave Benzie priority. He also made it clear that 60,000 AMI could be accomplished with 2 tenants, each making 30. So, and he provided a number if people knew of candidates who might be interested. I attended the EDC meeting via Zoom. I was not able to participate, but I listened. BWAC gave an excellent presentation. As Commissioner Jeanette shared, they're beginning a discussion of the direction of the EDC. And one of the primary focuses of that conversation was whether a contracted person was needed to drive the success of the EDC. Somebody focused on EDC issues in Benzie County primarily. I received confirmation that I was accepted to the MAC Health and Human Services Committee. It was great. I was hoping to be on that one, and that's all I have.
Nice. Questions?
Rhonda, if you could carry this message back to that housing group, what they might want to do, because I'm shocked that he doesn't have applications, is if they would contact Gateway Village, we have probably a 2-year waiting list. And some of those people may fall into that category. The 80% AMI.
Thank you.
Because I tell you what, we don't want to fill that with, we want to fill that with our local folks. We don't, and I'm sure that we get calls all the time. I'm just be shocked if they can't fill that.
What else?
I'm gonna go a little deeper on the SUD funding that Rhonda brought up, because I'm very involved with that. This is at the Central Network Board meeting, that discussion around the PA2 funds. Currently, the region doesn't provide us with a lot of accurate reporting, and we've asked for it. So we actually get to the point where we're asking them to, and I've actually submitted a request to get a listing of all of our county programs and the dollar amounts for them. And the region actually responded since that meeting that yes, they will start doing that for us. So hopefully we'll have some better reporting of how our funds are being used and a running balance of what those funds are. Another issue that came up is when there's a program submitted to the region, this is for substance use disorder, the oversight board, we review all the requests, and then we make the recommendation to the region whether those requests should be approved or not. Well, a group could submit a request that would use Benzie County funds without me being able to say yay or nay on that. Basically, I could get outvoted during the thing. They could say, oh, we're going to use your funds anyways, whether you want us to or not. So we're going to be asking the region to give us the request to me for Benzie County so that I can bring it to this board, and then to Richard Smith for Manistee so he can take it to their board. So we can actually see the requests coming in before they're submitted to get the request or approval at the regional level. Just, we've been asked, we've gotten a point before where a regional program came in, it got approved, but Central Wellness already provides those services anyways. So it's like, why are we funding Grand Traverse to provide a service when it's not helping our community at all?
And the region is 21 county.
Yes.
Can we stay on that subject just for a minute?
Yeah, we can.
Bring it to the board. Those are for people that need care under substance abuse. Is that right?
Substance use, yeah.
How would we be qualified to determine what, if that is really a legitimate need or not?
It's not whether it's a need or not. And it could be just making sure that it's vetted, that it's not duplicated, and maybe talking with Catholic Human Services and Central Wellness to make sure that, yes, this is a service that would be benefiting the county and it's a good use of those funds. The jail's involved with some of these, and the courts are as well.
So there's experts that are making recommendations.
Yeah, this is more for us to keep track of the funding and know that we're not committing to funds that we don't have.
Okay.
And the Central Wellness Network Board did ask that the Chip Johnston and myself go out and write a template letter for this board and Manistee's board to send to the region, asking them to, you're the recipients of our funds. We need to be good stewards of our funds. You need to start doing these things. And we did meet, and that letter is created, and it'll be at our next Central Network board meeting. Since we've had those meetings, Chip Johnson also forwarded out an email giving us a notice that there are two Senate bills, Senate Bill 1222 and 1223, that would extend the PA2 tax term quite a bit. There's some history there on how the PA2 tax funding came about, and part of it has to do with the conference center in Detroit, Cobo Hall, and funding for that. And those bonds are being paid off early. And once those bonds were being paid off, and if that were to stop, then we would lose the PA2 funding. How they're tied together is beyond me. But also in this new bill, would change the split of how the PA2 fundings are using. In the past and currently it's at 50-50, where 50% goes to the county general fund and 50% goes to the substance use disorder programs. They're proposing in this bill that it changes to a 60-40 split, where 60% goes to the general fund and 40% go to substance use disorder. And there's also going to be a greater percentage of the liquor tax coming back to the counties as well. This is changing up quite a bit. That's it for that. The LEPC, the LPT meeting, we had our first combined meeting. Well, actually there are two separate meetings, just back to back. We did our organizational meetings for both and elected new officers, and we updated the officer member of records forms, the records and forms that required that Rebecca has to send to the state for these things. At the LAPC Office Emergency Management, Hubers gave the update on the county hazard mitigation plan and where she's at with that, and visiting all the local municipalities and giving them an overview. The LPT, local planning team, we're looking at creating, again, identity again, like you guys were talking about for the EDC. What's their mission, the strategic plan going forward. So we're gonna be working on that. And working on the draft of the emergency operations plan. which is just getting started. And Rebecca informed us that was probably going to be a long process. And I attended the Benzie Senior Resources Board meeting. Nothing to report that Doug hasn't already covered, as he provides a very detailed report. Any questions?
Oh, you're done?
Sorry, it just,
I thought all that money through the liquor tax had to be spent in our county. So this was a way to circumvent that by going regionally. Is that what's going on here?
so any program that is regional, if they can make it so, yes, we are going to take clients from Benzie County, they can then try to include us in that package or that program. Just recently at the Substance Use Disorder Oversight Board meeting, there was a program out of Grand Traverse County that wanted to include all the surrounding counties. It's like a peer support group thing for drug abuse users. We already have that program out of Central Wellness, so it'd be a duplicative efforts. But they included Benzie and Manistee in it because we're neighbors. We asked to be removed from that, and of course, that program said, "Yeah, we'll remove you from that." So it's staying on top of these things. It's not that it was done with maliciously or anything. It was just like, "Oh, it's a great program. We're going to include everybody around us." Well, they didn't come and talk to us first to make sure that that's something we needed or wanted.
They could outvote you, just like you said. That
But-
is a concern to me.
Well, so going forward, what the intent is it needs to come to me, well, because we're in collaboration with Manistee with Central Wellness Network, me and or Richard for something would involve Benzie, Manistee for us to review to make sure, and we'll get with Catholic Human Services and Central Wellness Network to make sure that these aren't duplicate of effort services. It's something that really makes sense. And so they'll get reviewed before they even get to the ability to be voted on.
I appreciate the work. So easy sidetrack this money.
So,
like you said, why can't we go direct to our providers with the money? Thank you.
The challenge here is being on the Substance Use Oversight Committee. When I first got on it, I had no clue what I was doing on that thing. And the turnover on this board is pretty frequent. And a lot of people are there, they have no clue of why they're voting on some of this stuff. Oh, this request seems like a great deal. I'm going to vote yes, not knowing that, well, you just committed your county to something that it's not going to benefit from.
Or your county doesn't have the money to.
Exactly right.
The only other thing I would add at the Central Wellness Board meeting, both Commissioner Markey and I started a conversation about the opioid funding coming down, court case settlement, and Central Wellness said that they would be there to help guide us, visions, give us their recommendation on their views on what should be done with the money. Karen Goodman is a minister who also works on this, real in line with some ways that abuse. Good resource on the road.
What else? Gary?
Well, the Gilmore Township, they're a little concerned about the 24-hour road patrol, so additional costs, I guess. They're always skeptical on certain things. So anyway, I said, I'll bring it up. So I just brought it up. They are having a public hearing tomorrow at 7 p.m. for a possible moratorium on township zoning permits, that they will not issue any permits for 6 months until they get some of their concerns taken care of by the citizens and the planning commission. I plan on attending tomorrow night, but it's there to attend. It is their community and their township. So just throwing that out there. Road commission, they had their organizational meeting. Nobody wants to switch jobs, so they're all staying where they were. Didn't want to run a meeting. And they discussed the roads that they're going out for bid on, the primary roads, which is their concern. They're looking at Copish Road, Carl Inn, Lindy, 2 sections of Lindy, one through the village and one out to the Carl Inn Road. And the local road had their meeting on the 11th in between. They're looking at King Road, South Carmine and Brownell. What they're trying to do is stay over in that east corner to try and save some money on setups or whatever it is, which is very expensive. But the good news from what I've heard is this year shouldn't be too bad on asphalt prices because Palmer's purchases ahead. So everything that they had was purchased for knowing full well. So, and they usually pass those savings on. So that's a good thing. They were also approached by the Sleeping Bear Gateway Group, which is a group out of Leelanau County. They've been working on the visitor center is one of their concerns, but they were looking at the school for possible housing project. And a lot of concerns they have to go through because deed says that the property cannot be broke up. And what they're kind of looking to do, they brought up the word dormitory and that threw the road commission to, no, we're not talking anymore. But if you want to do housing, if we can split the property, we don't need it all. So that's kind of what they're looking at. It's a work in progress. They're going to approach the school and we will see. I don't know. Because I guess in the deed agreement, if this is violated, it goes back to the school and I'm sure they don't want it back. Anyway, good news was they were looking at possibly coming up with funding for demolition, stuff like that. And that might be the way to go. The building, they're down to one boiler that barely works, just enough to keep the place heated. Decision will be made 1st of July, one way or the other. So, Village of Thompsonville, the disinfection byproduct, I guess is how I wrote it down. I don't know if I know what I'm doing. Triggered another advisory over there because even though they were lower than they were before, it's the continued average. So they have to send out letters again. And one of the things they're going to do is clean 2 wells. It costs $50-some thousand to clean these wells. It takes about a week. I guess you just pump chlorine into, I don't know. Doesn't sound like an easy project, but that was one of the options they had. So they're kind of heading that way. The last meeting I attended was the Village of Alberta. They were working on their master plan with Networks Northwest. They're going to have a survey out from February 8th to the March 31st. And then one of the things that were brought up, possibly doing that Christmas in the park like they do in Bear Lake, maybe over by Penfold Park or.
It's really pretty.
I said, that's not a bad idea, but that's up to you guys. So they're looking at possibly doing that. They were down 2 trustees. One did not want to run again, so he's not coming back. And the other gentleman forgot to run. Which brought up a little confusion in the audience out there, but they ended up reappointing him a special meeting last month. So anyway, see how that goes. They have a new clerk treasurer position. Her name is Nora Corwin. And they have a deputy clerk, Barry Besner or something. Please don't get me on the names. But everything seems to be working good. I didn't know if they were going to fill those positions so quickly, so that was good. That's all I got.
Questions, Gary?
Yeah, Gary, just for clarification, that housing, you were talking about Platte River Elementary, right?
Yes.
And the housing group would be coming out of Leelanau County?
They call it the Gateway Organization. It's a group. Needs to be able to get funding. Do you know much about them?
A little bit. I went to one of their meetings. They have players from all the counties and that affect Sleeping Bear Dunes. So there's Benzie representation, Leelanau representation. And so they're that nonprofit, kind of like the Friends of the Trail. And they're like that fundraising arm of Sleeping Bear themselves, of the National Park Service themselves.
All right, so there is representation from Benzie on that group too.
Yep. And they invited, it was last summer, maybe, they invited all the administrators of the affected counties. And so I was there and listened to them about some of their future goals of trying to figure out housing and trying to figure out a visitor center and those sort of things.
And I'm curious, why did they so quickly dismiss the potential of a dormitory?
Because I think part of the issue was they were looking to house members of that work at Sleeping Bear in the summer.
Right.
And they're looking for, just a short term, I mean, similar to migrant housing, I guess is what you call it. But I think the focus of the board, the road commission board, is not some temporary type of housing, more in line with something that'll benefit the community as a whole in a long-term type situation. So
I would encourage them to revisit that. There is economic value to providing that type of housing for seasonal workers. It would give us an advantage in terms of attracting workers against other communities. I think it has merit, and it has to be done right. But the whole community benefits from it because we need service workers. One of the reasons why we don't have them is because there's nowhere to house them or nowhere affordable to house them. And I've long since toyed with the idea of dormitories. And I think that people confuse what that really looks like.
Yeah.
So, any case.
So anyway, they're working, move forward. I don't think the issue is completely closed, depending on what they want to build, but it sounds to me like it's cheaper in the long run to tear it down and build something like that. Keep it separate. Get the liability, well, it has to be a nonprofit, so the liability, but I'm not sure what the schools with the deed restriction cause.
Just encourage him not to slam the door so quickly. That could be a solution.
Oh, makes sense.
I have a question, if I may. Gary, on the meeting tomorrow night in Gilmore for Gilmore Township, is that a board meeting that is discussing housing at that point in time, or do you know who's going to be in
It'll be a board
attendance?
meeting, yes,
Okay,
because the zoning appeals board is the township board.
okay,
They're running it. It'll be a combination with the planning commission will be there.
mhm.
So they will have their input there too.
Okay, that was my question. Who else was going to be there for speaking?
They have had, actually for Gilmore, quite a few folks show up.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. We'll move on to the county administrator.
Just a few things for me. For those who don't have them yet, the Benzie County budget at a glance. I have a stack here. If you want to take a few, you're welcome to take those. We didn't order a ton because we didn't want to have to throw them away. So if we're getting low and everyone still wants more, we'll order more for you. Shelley and I applied for funding through the federal government, the Local Assistance and Tribal Consistency Fund. Benzie County was eligible for $100,000. So we did apply for those funds and we will receive $50,000 this fiscal and $50,000 next fiscal. Those funds are able to be utilized for almost anything except lobbying. So they're pretty loose funds, but it's only for the next 2 years, $50,000 each year. So after all of the rigmarole and back and forth with the .gov registrar, they emailed me on Friday and said, I quote, "We will approve your original request after all." So we will have benzieco.gov for our web address.
Okay.
Rebecca and I shook our heads when we got that email because we went back and forth to ask for an exception so we could be Benzieco MI because they wanted it to spell out county, and they granted the exception, but then said, well, we'll approve your original request after all. So So we will be benzico.gov, makes it a little easier for the community and staff. There's less of a change to our email domain and our website domain. Just a heads up that the Tahoe that we purchased for animal control will be delivered tomorrow. So that's exciting. We'll have a vehicle back in service. This Tahoe has custom kennels built inside of it. So they'll be able to transport 3 separate kennels worth of animals, 3 animals inside there, which is great, which is temperature controlled and all the good things. League of Women Voters, they asked me to be on a panel with the other county administrators in the region to talk about ARPA. It was a great panel session. It was about an hour and a half. You can stream it online at Up North Media or on Charter Cable Channel 192 if you're bored. But just so you know, the process that we carried out for ARPA and that we're still carrying out, we're going to bring it back up here in the next month or so, is really a process that most other counties use. So what we did isn't anything out of the ordinary, but it just goes to show that, you know, we're doing things the right way. And I will say there was 2 occasions where the administrators actually said, yeah, what Katie said. So I thought, well, that's cool. So that was great. And then SRO funding. Some of you or all of you may have received a press release about the governor awarding various dollars for SRO, school resource officers around the state of Michigan. You did not see Benzie schools on there, Frankfurt schools on there. There were attempts made to have discussion as to getting the schools to apply for those funding. The schools had to apply. That was the thing. We couldn't apply as a county, and the schools declined to apply for those funds. And so that's not why we were not on that list. If the funding comes around again, we'll be a little more direct in saying, let's get on that list. We should be applying for those funds. And then the last thing, for those, if you got your emails regarding your MAC committee appointments, if you can either let me know or forward those emails to me so I can make sure that our committee's list is correct. So if you could just let me know that whether or not you were appointed to those committees. I know you have, Commissioner and I. So just forward those emails or let me know which committees you were appointed for MAC. But that's what I have. Is there any questions?
Can I just tell you now that I've been appointed to the governance committee?
Okay. Okay.
Was I supposed to apply for something?
I did it for you.
I have not
But they
gotten
did
anything.
not email me the appointments.
They just mailed it back.
But I sent in all your application. Well, aside from the 2 of you, I sent in everyone's applications. So I just want to make sure that our committee's list is correct is why I'm asking who was appointed to what.
And Katie, I have Northern Michigan Counties Association and Environment.
An environment. Okay.
Mhm. I apologize. I've already contacted them and
No, that's fine.
Okay.
I just need to know so I can update our list.
Perfect.
Yeah, that group doesn't actually approve it. This group approves you going there.
Thank you.
So if I may, we do have a SRO committee, correct?
Yes.
Okay, is that going to be on the agenda for making sure the next round of these SRO funds come up?
Repeatedly.
Yes.
Okay.
We tried.
Do we understand why the schools did not want to participate?
They don't want to put any money involved. They're concerned it's going to cost them.
Money and time in their administration, which quite frankly, Rebecca even offered to administer the grant. So if this opportunity comes again, we will work to be a bit more direct in saying we're applying for this funding. My sister applied for it and received funding, and she's like, it was the easiest application process. So we just have to be a bit more leading the charge on that because the school has to apply. We cannot.
What I would add,
Sister already have an SRO.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of where they slid off.
My sister's had an SRO for years and they applied and now she's going to hire another one.
it's just to add to that, the state's funding it for 3 years, which would have given us an opportunity to reduce or at least suspend having to assess that millage during that period of time, which is what, a couple $100,000 a year or so. Honestly, I'm concerned that they were so casual about not looking for that opportunity to reduce some of the tax burden to the community.
the two communications or the two concerns that the superintendent Benzie Schools had was when they thought it was going to cost them money, and I had specifically read the information and told her it wasn't going to, and two, that it only applied to communities that didn't have SROs, and I explained to her that, no, that wasn't it. And I did pursue her that the taxpayers would appreciate the relief because they've already, the school struggled to get their bond passed in the beginning. And so it would show good effort that we're working as a community for the same purpose. And all they had to do is really click a button.
Yeah, I brought it up to them as well. Well, before even Rebecca did in the committee. We were at an outing together and I brought it up to them. So it is a little disappointing.
We brought it up at least twice.
Yeah.
In our meetings. Rebecca offered to do all the work. I'm very disappointed. They're not looking out for the people that, so anyway.
And if you saw the press release that came out on this, there was a large number of communities that are benefiting from it. I could be wrong, but I want to say about 60.
There's a lot.
There's communities that were awarded it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like if you applied for it, you're pretty much in.
And we were thinking, and obviously Becca had it figured out that our village would cover the match for the school.
Yeah.
So
It was a 25% match.
I got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
I read in the Leelanau paper that past administrator, hired one that they hired.
Chet Janik.
Chet?
Yeah, Chet, that's the guy. Was able to get $100,000. Is that the grant you're talking about?
For the LATCF, the
The
local,
one you and Shelley got?
probably, it's probably the same
I
grant.
was just curious.
It's not really a grant. I literally filled out a pre-filled form. All I had to do was like add my name.
Well, it was you apply and you get it.
Yeah, it was one of those, it was designated specifically to the locals and tribals that fell within a certain category. So based on, population and our land, and there were certain criteria that only certain counties were even eligible for the funding. And then it was a give me, almost like ARPA. I used the same portal as we did for ARPA, and I just typed my name.
Glad you got it. Thank you. That's all I got.
Alrighty.
Just in closing this, could I ask that we ask Tammy to document the fact that we had a discussion regarding the SOR grant,
SRO,
and that we would encourage the school systems to cooperate with us in trying to get those funds?
I sure would hope so. But yes, Tammy will do that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy.
Got it. Okay. Committee of the whole consent calendar, one item.
Janelle will make the motion to approve the committee of the whole consent calendar as presented.
Marky will support.
Motion and support. Approve up to $30,000 for courtroom doors / foyer as presented. Roll call, please.
Nye? Yes. Roloffs?
Yes.
Sauer?
Yes.
Cunningham?
Yes.
Janat?
Yes.
Markey?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We'll move to committee appointments.
So there are a few committee appointments in here. They were not up under action items because they weren't establishment of ad hoc interview committees. We have done our due diligence with these committees and working to recruit. And what you have in front of you is what we have for these committees. Two of them are reappointments, one of Miss Annie Browning and the other one of Mr. Kenneth Lawrence. Andy Miller has applied for EDC. I did not establish an ad hoc interview committee given the history. And the policy that we have allows for those exceptions for cases like that. And so these would be 3 appointments to 3 committees of which we've done our due diligence to recruit people.
Right.
Hey, Katie, I'm thinking that we have more than one vacancy on the EDC.
You do. And so there are actual motions in the packet if you would like to read those.
All right,
Or-
Jeanette moves to appoint Andy Miller to a 6-year term expiring 12/31/28 to the Economic Development and Brownfield Redevelopment Authority.
Markey will support.
Motion and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So moved. Next, we have Kenneth Lawrence to the Airport Authority.
Mhm.
We will schedule an interview with Mr. Lawrence.
We've done our due diligence to recruit for this position. We have no additional applications and he is a reappointment who's asking to be reappointed.
Okay,
I'll make the motion. The Board of Commissioners reappoints Kenneth Lawrence to a 4-year term expiring on March 1st, 2026 on the Frankfurt City County Airport Authority.
Second.
motion and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? So moved.
And I'll make the motion that the Board of Commissioners reappoint Annie Browning to a 3-year term expiring April 15th, 2025 on the Benzie Valley Trail Management Council, subject to confirmation by the Village of Beulah.
9 seconds.
I want to question that because I'm not sure Annie's really that well engaged in community. I never see her at any meeting.
I know.
She never shows up. But she shows up for this meeting. And she's my vice chair, so I don't want to.
Right. All right, I'll disregard that comment.
Yeah, don't document it.
Right,
That was for Annie's benefit.
yeah.
It's on TV now. so.
We have a motion and support. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? So moved.
Can I make one comment?
You may.
We're going over the bylaws of the Benzie Valley Trail. And the stuff we're finding is the original ones were 4-year. And they only had a 5-member board, but then the more I read it, there was a village appointment. So we've really got to look at that. We'll get it straightened out in the spring, but some of these appointments might be longer than.
Yes, and so Rose is also reading through those documents. So as Rose is taking over the committee appointments, she's reading a lot of bylaws and articles of incorporation and spinning her head and yeah. And so you will notice why the motion specifically says subject to confirmation by the Village of Beulah. That's because that's required as part of the Bigelow agreement.
Right, which would add a 6th person.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
It's a mess.
it's a mess. But Rose is working to read all those documents. Same with EMS, we're looking at what's been being done and making sure that what we've been doing is actually matching what it should have been done originally.
This can change.
It could.
So move on to unfinished business. None, new business.
I would just ask a question for new business. Do you want us sharing the new web and email domain name for the benziecounty.gov at our meetings? And what would be the address for people to view these meetings on YouTube now that we're up and running?
Okay. For the benzieco.gov, not just yet, because we'll launch that all together with new email addresses. So we'll really start getting the word as we approach that in spring. Tammy did put onto the agenda the YouTube link. We have a YouTube channel, which is Benzie County, and you can subscribe to the channel. You can set up notifications to be notified when we go live. And so on the agendas will be the link, and that link will always be the same. It will never change because this is now our designated YouTube channel.
Benzie.
So it's youtube.com/
Okay.
I guess that would be, is it backwards slash? And then it's the @ symbol,
Here somewhere.
Benzie County.
You say it was?
And Benzie County.
Yep, that's the channel. And as we continue,
On the letterhead.
Gotcha.
and as we continue to have more videos, Google picks up on that. And so people will eventually be able to just Google Benzie County YouTube and it'll pop right up. But we're in our infancy on our social media and our online presence. So it may not pop up just yet, but as we're more active online, Google will start to pick that up and you'll be able to find things a lot easier.
So we got 6 people viewing right now.
That's more than we've had for a long time.
I'm just saying, well, probably I'm one of those 6. 'Cause I just pulled it up.
Stop
We got 5.
screwing the numbers.
4 of them got the wrong channel.
Thank you.
All right, any correspondence? We'll share in our last public comment. If there's anybody like to speak? Mr. King?
3 minutes?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. My name is Ryan King, box 164, Benzie, Michigan. I'm here this morning with the goal of using this room that I thought was vacant. I didn't know was a scheduled county commissioner's room. And I don't understand why public rooms need to be on lockdown now, like the jailhouse, where attorneys or people of the public can freely just use an open room that's not reserved like this one. It's either or. There are 2 rooms that should be available to the public. But more concerns are just my perspective of someone who is not credentialed as a Panther or a Husky, just someone whose family has paid non-homestead property taxes for 120 years, that I think it's atrocious how Benzie County has decided to go on the Section 8 fake Christian inbred Democrat. I don't know how to phrase it. It's not working, spending $30 million for a Class D in C school located 7 miles apart. So varsity athletes that aren't varsity athletes, they are literally 7th and 8th grade caliber athletes being considered varsity athletes as you spend $30 million a year for 2 school districts that speak for itself. Only 38% of the people of Benzie County possess a college degree, which means there's a high percentage of limp, simp, gimp, hicks that vote for stuff that they don't pay for taxes. Non-homestead property taxes pays for this asinine approach of pretending that the Maples needs to be millage back, that we need a dog catcher to drive from Music every day in a $70,000 dog catcher versus having a 911 call center, or the idea that Frankfurt spends $420,000 a year for a chief of 2 who's just as corrupt as this sheriff right here, who will be subpoenaed in the next few weeks, where Matthias Johnson, my attorney, is going to hopefully bring closure for me, which will put on full display that the worst law school in America is Cooley Law School. That's where John Doherty went, ex-Benzie County prosecutor, current prosecutor Sarah Swanson went, and Judge Thompson. It's the worst law school in America. It's only fit for the idiot hicks of Benzie County that are too incompetent to realize that it's the worst law school in America, that it only operates on having fraudulent police reports. That sheriff is okay with, whether it's Matt Weaver, Joel Hutchinson, Troy Lamerson, Lazowski, the list goes on. So I look forward for this collection of incompetency, which this board is, to having closed door meetings regarding me.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? We will close public comment and I'd look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that second.
Gary, Tim. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Oh, I feel-